Welcome to the practical part of OBD2 scanner. Now, currently I am sitting inside 2014 i20 petrol. If you are sitting on the driver's side, towards your right hand side, we have fuse box. If you remove the cover for fuse box, there is a 16-pin OBD port. And to this, we are connecting our OBD tool, ELM327. And after this, we need to turn on the ignition, and this turns on the Bluetooth module. By looking at this check engine light, we can confirm the ECU is powered on. Now I'll demonstrate how to connect this OBD tool to a mobile app. Here I'll be using a Torque Pro app as I told in the previous video. This is a paid app. Now I'll open this app. This is the home screen. On the top left corner you can see few status. Now the mobile app is trying to connect to the OBD device. Now I'll show you the device LEDs. The first red light you're seeing is OBD tools power, and other ones like yellow, green are the signal strength. This will basically scan all the modules in the car and give you the fault code. Now as you can see, the scanning has started and the percentage will start increasing. And the one important thing is when you are trying to scan it, never stop it or disturb the process. Now for our reference, there is no fault present in this system. That's why this should indicate no fault found. Now see, as you can see, there is 0 faults found. Now let me disconnect one of the sensor and simulate the fault code. Now I'll be disconnecting camshaft position sensor. For this fault code to get registered in the ECU, we need to cycle the ignition. And for this particular error code to get registered, we need to start the car and let it run for a few seconds so that the ECU will recognize the fault. Now I'll cycle the ignition and let's scan for the fault codes in the Torque Pro app again. See, already we can see a fault code appear. That is P0365. That is related to camshaft position sensor B circuit and it is located on bank 1. Now there is a function to search this fault code in a web. Using this web lookup function, we can search this fault code in the website or on the internet. Thus we get more information of this fault code, whether it is in the sensor or wiring or the module. Now let me click on this icon and clear the fault codes. And now as you can see, it is mentioning that you should only perform this action after fault has been fixed and when the vehicle is stationary. What they are telling is you should only clear this fault code only after clearing the fault. Otherwise, if you clear this fault codes before fixing the car, then temporarily the fault codes will be cleared. But as soon as you cycle the ignition or start the car again, the ECU will detect something is faulty and it will come up again. Now let me connect the sensor and see if the fault code is gone or not. Now let me turn off the ignition and turn it on and start the car. As you can observe, MIL lamp has not come on yet, but let's scan the fault codes and see if there is any stored codes. See, as you can see here, there are 0 fault codes. But sometimes these fault codes can be stored for some duration and they are called gray codes. These will get cleared after a few number of drive cycles. The ECU itself will clear these fault codes. So even if we don't clear it manually, it will get cleared by ECU. Now let's go to real-time data information. If we go here, we get a display which has number of dials in it. That is, either it can be in an analog format or graphical format. Now here you can see on the top left corner there is vehicle speed. On the right side we have RPM, that is engine speed, and this part you can see the throttle percentage. That is, currently it is at 15.69. And the next to that is a vacuum, that is intake negative pressure. And the next one is intake air pressure and the intake air temperature. Performance related data, that is, first one power in the form of horsepower, next is torque, and the bottom you can see 2 dials. Those are readings from oxygen sensor, that is, the left one is from the upstream sensor, the right one is from downstream sensor. Here what you are seeing is system readiness check, that is, ECU will check the different types of system whether there is an issue or not, that is misfire, O2 sensor, EGR system. But here you can observe the O2 sensor is telling incomplete. That is because, as I have told earlier, the O2 sensor will take a certain amount of time to get the readings. That is, it needs to be heated, and as it works in the closed system, it takes 1 or 2 minutes to start giving the readings. Now, let me start the car and show you the real-time data. Now, as the car started, you can see it is at around 1000 RPM, right? Here in this display, also you can see it is at 930 to 960 RPM. And the throttle is at 14. Now, if I give a little bit of throttle, you can see all the dials changing. That is, throttle is increasing, timing advance is changing, load is increasing, right? You can see that the timing advance is continuously changing. That is, ECU is adjusting spark timing depending upon the throttle input. Also, the vacuum is increasing, that means the more amount of air is entering. As well as you can see the coolant temperature has slowly risen up to 42 degrees. You can see constant variation in RPM and O2 sensor values. On the bottom, you can see the graphical representation. If you remember the O2 sensor, I have driven a similar graph that is continuously varying analog signal. Here, it is varying from 0.1 to 0.7 volts. Now, in this real-time data, you can see many parameters, such as here, the voltage has increased to 14.1. That is, battery is constantly being charged by alternator. Also, you can see O2 sensor, intake air temperature, load, intake air pressure, coolant temperature, and GPS accuracy as well. So, you get all the data in a single display. I hope you understood my explanation on OBD2 scanner. It's okay if you got confused a little bit since I used lot of new terminologies and introduced you to a lot of new things. I'll be explaining some of these topics in detail in future videos, so stay tuned for that. Please do like and subscribe to the channel.